Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I'm joined by Lawrence Conley, and hopefully we will also be joined by Laura Bradburn later on in the show. Celtic 6, St Mirren 0, and I think the delay with Laura coming in is because David Turnbull just scored a hat-trick. Laura, let's start off with the performance of what could probably be described as your favourite player, David Turnbull.
Listen, I have taken a fair enough slagging over the months since I saw David Turnbull in a Celtic shirt. Probably because I unfairly and overexcitedly compared him to Paul McStay, and it's become a bit of a running joke. But regardless of the Maestro's comparisons to him and whatever, he's just a classy player. He's so good. My favourite bit today, apart from his 3 goals, was in the first half when McGregor curled that ball just past the post. Before he actually took that shot, the person that took the ball down out of the air and chested it on the edge of the box and turned to pass it to him was David Turnbull. Mm-hmm. And he's just got that ability, a bit like I was talking about Tom Rogic the other night, that ability to find space and time where so many other players can't. And I just think his vision, his footballing brain, his ability to shoot, his ability to pass is quite often the key behind everything that we manage to unlock in games like today.
You know, it's incredible, and I've been saying this for the last 2 weeks because I think David Turnbull's really hit form in the last couple of weeks, Laura. I've been saying that, it wasn't too long ago that he was coming in for a fair bit of criticism. And now you're looking at the fact that he went to the Euros with Scotland, although he didn't play. I actually felt that he should have at some point played for Scotland. He must be one of these players who is going to play himself right into Steve Clarke's starting 11. I mean, I know that there has been calls, there's been suggestions that Stephen Welsh could help Steve Clarke out at centre-half. Even Tony Ralston, because of his performances, might be a shout for a Scotland squad. But beyond that, David Turnbull's a certainty, you would think.
He would have to be. I mean, it's the one bit of Scotland's game that I thought we lacked at the Euros, apart from not having a striker who can hit a goal into the net, hit a ball into the net. I think somebody of Turnbull's creativity and vision in the midfield is something that would help us a lot. But just interestingly, before I came on air, I was just tweeting, do you know the only other player to score a hat-trick, and his first and only hat-trick in a 6-0 win for Celtic?
Was it Paul McStay?
It was Inverness 1985 in the Scottish Cup 4th round. So I don't know. There's something written in the stars about this boy.
Listen, you continue to make the comparisons for as long as you like. McStay was an absolute magician, and so's David Turnbull. That's what I'm going to say. There were some concerns. Some people suggested, Lawrence, that David Turnbull was not Angie's type of player. He's proven them wrong, is he not?
Yeah, definitely. His game's went up a level. That's probably a combination of his application and the manager's instructions. He's making it clear what he wants his players to do and what's expected of him. He's setting a bar for them to hit. Turnbull, I think one of the European games, we actually thought he was playing his way out of the team earlier this season. And then Ange stuck with him in the next game at home, cracking game, and he's not looked back. You've got a midfielder there, as Laura saying, he's picking out passes that others don't see. He's scoring goals, he's making tackles, he's giving us everything. I felt it fell off a wee bit kind of last 10 minutes, so he's maybe still got to lift his fitness a bit. But another cracking performance from him.
Absolutely.
It's outstanding.
Yeah.
The team's getting better, I think, with every game. The longer that defence plays together, Starfield and Welsh are getting better understanding. But we're showing, it's worth playing attacking against what we consider a bottom 6 team at Celtic Park. The commentator started going on about, it's down to 10 men. I actually thought we took our foot off the gas a bit. The tempo dropped when they went down to 10 men. We were looking far more dangerous before it.
Yeah.
But, that's another player being sent off against Celtic. And arguably, you could say, in every domestic game this season, players should have been sent off against Celtic, and in a couple of games they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing for me, right, there was the obvious one with Power. I'm not going to labour that because we spoke about it at half-time. But I thought that Erhahon, Ethan Good effort, Paul. Four different occasions he was penalised. 2 of them could easily have been bookings. He didn't even get booked. Sorrell comes in, and by the way, Sorrell's effort was a booking. I'm not saying that for a second. But if that's a booking, then for persistent fouling, then surely the number 16, let's call him, should have been booked as well. You know, the consistency is just not there. Now, we're going to be talking about applying the rules during this show, Lawrence, when we speak about the ticketing situation with Rangers. That's all we're asking. Just apply the rules. We're not asking for anybody to be protected as such, because I think that Kyogo has been targeted, and I think Abada has been targeted so far this season. We're not saying protect our players beyond anything else or above any other player. Just apply the rules. That's all we're asking for, Lawrence.
A lot is to do with refereeing standard. I mean, if Hampson Mirren, that goal looks onside to me. I mean, I'll need to watch it back. But the boy in a right back position seems to be playing him on. You know, it looks like it's just another poor performance. It's like when he stopped the ball for a bounce ball when Cogger's body checked off it, you're going, you can't just make the rules up, will you? Just apply them, you know, get to a level where, okay, that's what we're asking for, better referees that apply the rules instead of make them up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you know, I meant to say this at half-time, Laura, but 16 minutes in, and Lawrence and I were just talking about the fact that Celtic had pressed St Mirren back for the entirety of that first 15 minutes. And this led to Abada's goal. And I turned out and said to Lawrence, see, last season, we would be unable to break this side down. This was part of the issue. There was a lack of creativity. There was a lack of width that we continually went on about, Laura. And often what would happen is a player like Christie mainly, sometimes Turnbull when he came into the side, would end up just trying an effort from range because we were clueless. We had no creativity. We had no ideas. We had no options. And I turned around to Lawrence and said that, you know, this time last season, we couldn't break this side down. And we did it because we played Abada out wide, and that's what created a chance. I mean, it was obvious for anyone watching Celtic to see that that was a major deficiency in our play. And by God, Ange has managed to rectify that very quickly, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think it's like you say that we had no runs through the channels or out wide last season. Nobody looking for the ball really, and that was a major problem for us. When you've got Abada and Christie especially making those runs, and Kyogo when he's playing through the middle, turning on the shoulder of the last defender, you've always got options to pass the ball forward and break those lines, which we didn't do last season. And I think that's probably where, you know, the criticism of Turnbull and Christie for taking pot shots last season that didn't come off is probably in reflection a little bit harsh, because like you say, those chances were, or the reason that they were taking those shots was because there was no other option there. You can see the success rate that they're having with shots now that they have other options, and they're only taking a shot when it is their best option. So I'm just encouraged to see the variety of goals we're getting. We're getting balls through the middle, which people are running onto. We're getting shots from outside the box. We're getting crosses and headers. It's really encouraging to see, and it means that, you know, if we can't break teams down in one certain way, then we'll try another way, and having those options available is something that's really going to help us the rest of the season.
Another thing, Laura, that Lawrence turned around and pointed out during the game was on that subject of Christie taking... he had a shoot on sight policy. He's spoken about it. You know, whenever you get into that area, just shoot. That was the incredible tactics that were given to him by Neil Lennon last season, and it didn't work. Johnny Ryan comes in to say, interesting, Christie was getting the armband. I looked at that and thought that was very wise. That was a wise move by Callum McGregor to do that. If we want to try and keep Christie, and we've spoken about that as well, you know, even to the end of the season, a bit like Eddie, and get performances like we did today from both Christie and Eddie. Yes, you're giving up a transfer fee, but surely the benefit of having these two guys playing like that, Lawrence, would be better this season of all seasons.
Yeah, definitely, especially Christie. We're so weak out in the left, aren't we? We don't know if Mikey Johnson's ever going to make it. I suppose so. Montgomery's your back up there. I think Kyle was a bit wasted out in the left. We've got to keep Christie because he's going to get next to nothing from him. And Eddie's starting to show a bit more interest now, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Now, whether that's he's trying to get a move or he realises what he's been doing before hasn't worked, or whether it's contagious because the team's playing well.
He's maybe just being coached and managed.
It could be. Listen, even Ayetis, when he come on was closing down, we talked about it. Oh, I'm not too sure if he's an Ange player. He looks to have lost a few pounds. He closed down.
I was going to say, Lawrence, Turnbull doesn't get his hat-trick without Ayeti today. It was him that closed the ball down, passed it to Rogic, who put the ball through. So, I think people are buying into what he's doing, and you're going to see a lot of big differences from a lot of players compared to last season. And before we carry on with the show, yes, I am aware Kyogo has scored his first and only hat-trick in a 6-0 win as well, but that's good company to keep. Kyogo and McStay is good company for Turnbull to keep.
On that point, before I get on to it, Joe Porter comes in. Welcome back, Joe. We are scintillating. Absolutely, we are. And, we've played 2 league games at home and we've won them both 6-0. And yes, these are 2 teams that I would expect to be bothering in the bottom half of the table. But the job still needs done, and it was done with aplomb, it was done with style, and it was done in a manner that sets you up nicely for a European game during the week as well. I mean, Kakashi comes in with a couple of the match stats, 73% possession, 36 shots, absolute domination. Now, by the way, I would make the point that last season, I remember when John Kennedy took over for the first 3 or 4 games, Laura, I think we were averaging something in the range of 25 to 30 shots a game. But there's a big difference between, firing shots in without any kind of game plan and doing what we're doing, because we're actually reaping the benefits this time round. We spoke before at the beginning of the game about, playing teams at home that we should, let's be ruthless about it. We should be putting to the sword. We've not been doing it for a long time. We didn't play defensively. We didn't just play with a sole striker and try this laboured attacking, from the back to the point where you're in the final third and you've got absolutely no options whatsoever. And it's worked on the 2 occasions we've done it, against Dundee and today against St Mirren. And I would hope, Laura, that is the approach we're going to have throughout the season. Yeah,
I would hope so. I mean, I agree with what you say about us having to be ruthless, and it was part of the reason I was so annoyed at COVID being made an excuse for Celtic last season, because we have resources and technology and facilities that are far beyond the majority of the opposition that we face in this division. And it isn't arrogance to say, it's actually a sign of respect for the other teams that we're playing, to say, listen, with what we have available to us, it is embarrassing for us if we can't put teams to the sword like we're doing now. These teams could do so much more with the finances and the facilities available to them that we have. And so for us not to make full use of them and do what we've been doing so far this season would be absolutely shocking. So having said all that, though, I'm still going to enjoy 6-0 wins against Dundee, 6-0 wins against St Mirren, because compared to last season, it's just an absolute world away, and it's just a joy to watch.
Yes, it is. Now, I don't want to labour last season, because we're now in the throes of what we think is going to be something special. But what I do want to talk about is our new arrival. It's been announced today that we have brought in Josip Juranovic. Also, the fact that Lee Griffiths is completely out the picture at the moment. There's a suggestion that we might be able to do a deal with Hibs on Kevin Nisbet and use Lee Griffiths as some kind of weighing tool in that. There's also the issue with the Rangers ticketing. And then there's the ever returning issue of Neil Lennon. Now, what I'm going to do, just looking here, is that Red Scotland makes a good point. It was good to see Ange hug Kyogo when he took him off. Kyogo, clearly a guy who needs loved. Ange knows this well. He's going to get plenty of love from the Celtic fan base. But Lawrence, the point that Red Scotland makes there, at what point would we have seen that embrace, between the manager and a player last season?
I don't know. I remember a left winger came off and got a couple of choice words from the manager last season. But listen, Ange is obviously a good man manager. He's getting performances out of players that I think the fan base just didn't think there. Another cracking performance from Tony Ralston and Greg Taylor. You're just dragging performances out of players that we didn't think were in there. Ralston didn't score today, we get another shot on target. It's great to see. He's obviously got a vision. We're not here. But I mean, listen, that's 2 6-0s going on 12. You're walking away from both those games and going, we should really, and another day we've got double figures, we're at the post, the keeper's pulling off great saves. it's two outstanding performances at home. He's managing his score well. He's managing to rotate them through. As thin as it is, we've made another. From his goal midweek, we've got another goal scoring right back. Big Arthur was hugging him as a goodbye. I'm sure he's told him what to expect for the fan base and what we'll expect.
Mm-hmm.
As you say, it's coming together. If Griff goes and we get Nisbet in, I think everybody would be happy with that deal. It's another clean sheet for the defence. As ropey as some people are saying, they've looked. Starville and Welsh are getting a better understanding. The fullbacks are doing their job. It's another clean sheet. It's got to breed confidence for those players.
Yeah, absolutely, Lawrence. I mean, you just got to look at how Turnbull, his form, once it started picking up and it's just going from strength to strength, Laura, you think to yourself as well, who else has been getting stick? Well, Starfelt's got a bit of stick, and so has Taylor. They've put in a very accomplished performance today. Maybe Starfelt a little bit less noticeable, but he was steady. And I think that the game time with him and Welsh playing together is going to hold him in good stead. I think that, it's too early to write him off. And thankfully, I don't think anybody on ACSOM has written him off. We've highlighted certain deficiencies in games, but there wasn't a moment in that game today where I had a heart in the mouth moment with Starfelt. So it's progress.
Yeah, I always firmly believe with defenders, like, don't get me wrong, I love seeing tackles like the one that Ralston made the other night, where he tracked the ball down and slid in when it was getting crossed into the box. And I love, big tackles that make the crowd roar when Simunovic went through Kenny Miller. Love all that stuff. But I think the mark of a good defender is when you don't notice them. Because if you don't notice them, it means they're entirely doing their job and they are not putting you in a position where you feel like their input is contributing to a possible goal. The thing that's made Starfelt noticeable in the last few games has been the chances that he's nearly given away, or the shaky passes, or the chances that or the goals that he's nearly given away to other teams. We didn't notice him today, perhaps because he didn't have as much to do because St Mirren weren't going forward. But he did have the occasional pass to make, the occasional tackle to make, and there was nothing to be concerned about. It was almost a side note on the performance. And to be honest, in a 6-0 victory, that's all you want from a central defender, is to be assured, to be confident, and to be almost an afterthought in the game. Yeah,
because if he's doing that, Laura, we're not going to be shipping goals at the back because he's doing his job. Absolutely. Good point coming in from Grayson Hesselden. Plenty of Aussie Celtic support sitting up at 2M. Well, we do see the amount of people coming in and watching the broadcasts from Australia and Japan. A lot of new fans coming in. So welcome to the show. We're going to be here all season. Hopefully it's going to be an enjoyable one. And Ewan Boy Martin says, yeah, hit the like button. Definitely, because you know what? Sometimes you put these broadcasts up and certain individuals have already put the thumbs down button before we've even started. So you know who they are. So weigh them down with a like button. Some big issues at Celtic. It's superb to be sitting here after a 6-0 drubbing of St Mirren. Never ever going to take something like this for granted. Absolutely not. But big discussion points in relation to Celtic. Let's start off with a positive. Lawrence, Anthony Ralston's had a cracking start to the season. This is the most consecutive games he's ever played in a Celtic jersey. But Ange Postecoglou has spoken about continually going to the well. And every time he's going to the well, the players are producing. But they do need rest. And I think, the arrival of Juranovic is a solid signing. What do we do midweek? I mean, is he going to be registered to play in Europe? Because I know that obviously the first leg McCarthy wasn't, but he was for the second game. Do we throw him in? Do we stick to where we are because we know what's coming up at Ibrox?
I don't think you unsettle your defence for either of those games. Tony Ralston's done absolutely nothing that would suggest that he shouldn't be in that team. He's playing his heart out every game. He's solid at that goal line clearance. He's scored a couple of goals. On the form and on the evidence of your eyes, how would you justify dropping him? Other than, I just don't like him. On his form this season, he's one of the first names in the team sheet.
Mm-hmm. No, you're 100% correct. Will McMillan comes in to say Juranovic will soon be in the team. And I guess it is a good dilemma for Ange to have, Laura. But with the next 2 games are massive for Celtic and for the season. We've got a great momentum, and I'm of the view, I'm agreeing with Lawrence, I'm of the view that you don't change something that is working so well at this stage.
Yeah, I would say the same. I think the majority of the 11 that played today should probably be on the pitch against Rangers, all things being well and no injuries being picked up. The one change I might make is I would be hoping that Furuhashi's back through the middle and we perhaps have Forrest in, because I think, as Jim mentioned on the show yesterday, I do think that Edouard slows the play down a little bit too much and struggles to find his feet and get quick on the turn. Whereas I think if you have Forrest back in the team and Furuhashi and Abada, you have that pace and that dynamism that can really bamboozle the Rangers defence and give them something to think about when they have not got off to the best start this season. And I want to clarify what I'm saying by saying I'm not continuing the narrative of that Edouard's lazy and that he's and all the other accusations that have been made against him. I don't think he was that today. I just think he wasn't suited to the style that we were trying to play, and I would rather have players in the team that suit that style, because to be honest, if you're still struggling for a goal and you've got somebody like Eddie on the bench who can come on and make a difference, that's no bad thing either.
The point that Jungle Lion makes is just imagine this team after 3 or 4 transfer windows with Ange at the helm. I mean, today's team, you would expect the vast majority of them, injury aside, and hopefully nobody's picked up any knocks, to start during the week on Thursday night. And the one player that might come back in, depending on his fitness, would be James Forrest. We've signed a new player. Will he be available? We'll need to wait and see. And then, of course, after that, we've got a massive game against Rangers. Now, yesterday, it was confirmed that Celtic and Rangers had an agreement that 750 tickets would be distributed to the away teams. The first game obviously being at Ibrox and the second follow-up game in January at Celtic Park. Now, back in the day, what we're talking, 7,000 was the kind of norm that would have got the full Broomloan Road stand, but we know the reasons behind the fact that we've only got 750 tickets now. And Celtic have the tickets sitting up at Celtic Park. They're printed out. They're sitting there waiting to get picked up by those lucky 750 recipients. Rangers have demanded an assurance from Celtic, an absolute cast iron guarantee that they will be given 750 tickets in January. Now, Laura, there has been a few things happening in the world over the last year where assurances and guarantees are quite difficult to provide. So Celtic have refused to give them the guarantee based on the fact that we don't know what the situation is going to be with the pandemic come January. I mean, if we give you a cast iron guarantee of 750 tickets, and when January comes along, there isn't a full capacity at Celtic Park, yet we must still give them 750 tickets. And that means that season ticket holders aren't getting into the game. Celtic are leaving themselves wide open. Yet Rangers make that demand. We want a cast iron guarantee. Because, Lawrence, Rangers don't play by the rules. Now, there's been a few things this season, and we don't labour anything in relation to Rangers. Rangers are their own side and they do their own thing, but when it affects Celtic, we're going to discuss it. And this is yet another example, Lawrence, of them abiding by their own rules.
Well, the rule is they've got to give us a reasonable amount of tickets. So I would say 0 isn't reasonable. Looks on the face of it that they're breaking the rules. So when did the SPFL step in? Do we need to lodge a complaint? Because on the park, you wouldn't need to lodge a complaint. You're not only going to get penalties you shout for. If the ref sees an infringement, someone clearly breaking the rules, they should apply them.
Regardless of anybody shouting for them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So surely this applies to the SPFL, especially when there's a dispute that's already had to get referred to the SFA over the non-compliance with the sponsorship agreement and putting £8 million worth of sponsorship at risk.
Yep.
Who steps in? Who applies the rules? Do the rules apply? Because we know the SFA have refused to kick an issue up to the court for sport arbitration. They've refused to do that over let's say, the dubious awarding of a licence to the original Rangers, the old club. So when do the rules get applied? It's a bit of a strange one. And what would the sanction be for not actually? If any club just decides we don't play by the rules that the rest of the league do, well, what are the sanctions that's left when a club does that?
No, you're spot on. And I mean, in a situation like this, Laura, Celtic feel as though they're powerless. Now, surely that is why there's a body in place to step in under circumstances such as the ones that we are currently seeing unfold in front of us, to say, well, actually, that's a breach of this regulation, which is all to abide by, not just every other club except Rangers. So Celtic are frustrated, and the fans should be frustrated as well, because again, it's a flagrant disregard for the rules by one club. Just one club, Laura. What's your thoughts? What was your thoughts yesterday when this story broke?
I have to say the first thing that sprung to mind was Rangers demanding a cast iron guarantee from anyone for anything was so dripping in irony that I couldn't believe it. I have to admit that. See, the thing I have with this is not about the fact that we are Celtic and they are Rangers that we are saying this. This is about a club, any club, not following the rules and it affecting us. So anybody who's on here thinking that we're just having a go at this because it's Rangers doing it, I would be having a go at this if it was Dundee, if it was Kilmarnock, if it was St Mirren, if it was whoever it was. It's the fact that there is one club in this country, and we talk about COVID testing, we talk about their reintroduction into the league, we talk about this situation and the sponsorship situation, which they don't seem to be taking to task properly over either. You just get a situation where, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say this: if you're never fined, disciplined, or given into trouble in any way for anything that you do, why wouldn't you continue to push the envelope? That's what anybody would do in that situation. So as long as they continue to do things that are out with the rules that the other 11 clubs in the league are following and don't get the repercussions of it, they're going to continue doing what they're doing.
Yep.
But what if it's not outside the rules for them to do it? What if, I don't know, there's a mystery agreement that says they're not subject to the jurisdiction in Scotland? They're not subject to these rules and jurisdiction of Scottish football and bodies.
The rules as we understand them are what they are operating outside, and I think to keep yourself from going down the road of conspiracy theories and all that kind of thing, you would have to say the rules as we understand them are this, and they are not following them. So that is what we have to judge it on.
Now, it then begs the question. Here we have a new CEO at Celtic, and I'm sure he's going to be faced with many, many challenges. I'm sure he's already been faced with many challenges since he took the role. Is this a coming of age for Don Mackay to say, well, actually, I'm going to have to challenge this. I'm going to have to be the voice of Celtic and challenge this, Laura?
Well, it's a common sense thing. Like, nobody, given everything that's happened in the last 18 months, can make any cast iron guarantees about anything. We have no idea what the COVID situation is going to be, especially over the winter. We've had numerous warnings from people who are much more educated on the situation than any of us sitting here, that it's a respiratory virus that is going to probably increase in case numbers in the winter. And you don't know what the situation is going to be come January with regards to people getting into stadiums. So to sit here and say that Celtic have to deliver a cast iron guarantee to a football club who can't even guarantee that they're going to pay people is just ridiculous. It's just, it doesn't, if they were operating with any common sense, then they wouldn't be asking for that guarantee.
Well, maybe that's why it's in the rules, so is that you don't have to ask for guarantees. You know what? It's in the rules. You don't need to give guarantees. We need to give you a reasonable amount of tickets. That's the rules, and we play by the rules. So why would you need a guarantee over and above someone playing by the rules?
Are we all already operating, Lawrence, at that borderline? What is deemed to be a reasonable amount? Because obviously Rangers took it to the absolute bare minimum, didn't they, when they made that decision in the first place? So is that what is deemed reasonable, 750 tickets at Ibrox?
Well, if they've come out and said, listen, the reason you're not getting any is because you won't give us a guarantee. So that's over and above league rules. You're asking for something over and above the league rules to be put in place.
Yeah.
Why should anything over and above the league rules be put in place? There's league rules there. Why don't we just play by the rules that everyone's signed up to?
Mm-hmm. Why
do you need something extra? Is this just to try and get an advantage? And are you worried about something and you don't want any Celtic fans there? It's strange. And when did the governing body step in?
Well,
I think Don Mackay should say something, but why should he have to say anything?
Should they have stepped in before now, Lawrence? The very fact now that the fixture, in terms of a spectacle, for anyone who has gone to Ibrox, or I'm sure for any Rangers fans who have gone to Celtic Park, having gone to that fixture throughout their life, cannot deny that the fixture has been affected. The atmosphere has been affected. So surely, it shouldn't have taken until now for that, because it was a Rangers decision in the first place that both clubs are now only offering 750 tickets.
But you could say that was reasonable. It's not the same fixture as it was with the original club. The new club, the fixture's already lost something for me. But it's a new Glasgow derby, and that's an arrangement that the two clubs have that's over and above what's required within the rules. But should Dom have to come out and say something, say, look, this club's breaking the rules, but when he's going to step in? I don't think he should. I think he should step out and say it, but I don't think he should have to.
You shouldn't have to. I think no.
The governing body should be stepping in and go, listen, you kind of need to play by the rules here. You can't just do what you want.
Laura, how does Celtic deal with this situation? Because initially I've just said there, and I agree with Lawrence, he shouldn't have to. Ian Maxwell should already be looking at this situation. He shouldn't have to. Dominic Mackay shouldn't have to intervene. But, we both know, the three of us know how Scottish football works. And if he doesn't, then it will probably never be dealt with. Following that, how does Celtic deal with the fixture in January? Should Rangers deny 750 Celtic fans opportunity to attend the game at Ibrox?
My response to that would be, I personally don't think that you play tit for tat as far as this is concerned. You show the other club up for the way that they're behaving by saying, yes, you can bring your fans here if they pay their money, and they can watch Celtic play them off the park if that's what they want. I don't, and I might be setting myself up for embarrassment depending on how the result goes next week, but I'm just saying, I don't know why, as Celtic as a football club, we are supposed to be a club open to all, and that includes fans of our rival club. And so if they want to pay their money and come and watch games at Celtic Park, then I think they should be able to. I don't think there's any situation in which, regardless of how we're being treated the other way around, I think we should take the, I guess you call it the moral high ground, but we should be the bigger club and play by the rules that we're asking them to play by.
Yeah, fair comment, Laura, and show a bit of class, I think, as well, There are a couple of other things to discuss. We have touched on the Lee Griffiths and Nisbet gossip, speculation, the suggestion that, Celtic, probably due to the fact that the Henry deal is looking less and less likely now, I think, also we've moved our attention elsewhere, and Werder Bremen have pulled the rug from under our feet. We might be looking at Kevin Nisbet. It might be something to do with a player plus cash deal. Best case scenario would be, under the circumstances, Laura, that Lee Griffiths' Celtic career comes to an end. A lot of the people this morning, when I suggested that it was a good idea, was, why would Hibs take him? Well, my answer to that would be because he'll score goals. If Lee Griffiths goes to Hibs, he'll score goals. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not particularly interested in why Hibs would or wouldn't take him, but I do agree that's probably the forefront or foremost in their mind is the reason you take Lee Griffiths to your football club is because you think he'll score goals for you. And if they want to take him and we can get him off our hands and we get Kevin Nisbet in exchange for it, I think we win out of that. So I don't see any. I would be doing my utmost to push it through, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Lawrence, do you agree with that? Before we finish off with a wee chat about a former manager and constantly coming back to have a dig at Celtic, the players, the fans, and anybody else associated with the club.
Yeah, listen, I totally agree with it. I think it's a better deal for Celtic than it is for Hibs, and that doesn't worry me. Why Hibs would take it, I'm not really concerned about that. I think it's a cracking deal for Celtic if they can get it through. Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, because the Celtic State of Mind covers
every development at Celtic, Laura, we are going to talk about this. This is not because we want to continue to labour the Neil Lennon saga. It's him that's continually picking the scab off of this one. He's come back out just when Eddie's starting to show a bit of form, and that's why I'm glad that he had another good performance today. Basically, he's questioned his professionalism. He's questioned his commitment. And he's done this a full year plus after the pre-season that he's talking about. Neil Lennon has tarnished his legacy already, and he continues to do so by coming out and having a dig at Celtic. As I say, the fans, the players who are still at the club. Celtic fans are now thinking to themselves, well, when did Neil Lennon become a body language expert? Because the first thing he should do then is maybe have a look at his own body language throughout the last season of his time at Celtic, because he looked clueless to me. He looked disinterested. He looked completely unfocused. And if he looks at the body language of the players who were under his say-so at that point, then he would realise that not one of them was playing for him. Not one of them had faith in him as a coach or as a manager. And quite frankly, I have no faith in him as a human being now.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the excerpt of the BBC interview, and I thought, somebody replied to a tweet that I made about it and sort of said, maybe he has a point about Eddie, and maybe he did. The fact of the matter is, though, that he's out of the club. He's gone. His managerial career at Celtic ended in an absolute shambles, and he has no standing on which to criticise anybody else for the way that season went. The major issue that I have as well is that he keeps swinging back and forth between this, that almost implying that Ange's got it easy because he's got the Celtic support behind him, while last season he was saying we were part of the major problem because we were acting so entitled. And I don't know which way it goes. I don't know which way he wants to choose to go with it. But either way, he's alienating everybody, because a very basic reflection or analysis of the Celtic support at the moment would mean I don't know who he's trying to win over by slagging off the current situation at the club, because we are playing well. We have a manager who's playing well, who I think would have got us playing well whether there were fans here or not. And let's be fair about it. There were other teams, Rangers included, who played much better than us last season without any fans in the stadium. So what's his excuse for that? I don't know. My only wish is that he would just stop talking about Celtic. That's all I want. I just want him to stop talking about Celtic and let the club and the fans go on with moving forward, because it was not a pleasant experience last season for him or for the fans. And I think everybody just wants to forget about it, to be honest.
And the thing with Neil Lennon, I'm not going to talk about him unless he comes and attacks the club. And that's what he's done. And he's attacked the fans. And he's not just doing it in a public setting either, by the way. And the thing with that is Lennon does need to take a total break from commenting on his time at Celtic Park. And people criticise, and in the comments I've been criticised for what I've said, and I stand by every single word of it. Neil Lennon needs to take responsibility for his own actions and his own misgivings, both on and off the park. And he needs to stop talking about Celtic, blaming the fans, blaming the players, and the circumstances as well. Because, you know what? Even if we were firing on all cylinders last season, it would have been an enthralling title chase. Nobody knows what would have happened, but we were nowhere. And you look at the transformation in some of those same players, Lawrence, under Ange Postecoglou, and that is down to the belief that has been instilled in them by the new gaffer, this new approach, the new philosophy.
Listen, that's a huge part of it. But to go back to his particular comments on Eddie, I knew he wasn't with us, tell it in training. You're the manager, you were picking a team, why were you picking him? Straight away I'm kind of go, mate, do you realise what that says about you as a manager then? I'm just going to pick a guy that's not with it and not interested. Right, and you knew that from the start, but you continue to pick him. It's kind of baffling. You're going, well, what are you saying about yourself here? Why are you picking a guy you're going, he's not interested in playing for us? He's not with us. I could tell by his body language. Well, why did you pick him? You were the manager. You're the guy that could do something about that. If you can't get motivated and can't get with us, why do you continue to pick him? You certainly didn't get the performances like... Yeah, he was today he looks a lot fitter. He was chasing balls down because pre-season we're going, well, are you to fit Ange? Because he was carrying a few pounds last year. We don't think he's the kind of guy who'll chase down. He made one of Turnbull's goals, but chasing down, he's lost a few pounds. He looks a lot fitter. How much of that is due down to the management of the player? If Ayeti last season was seeing a player that was disinterested in training, you could tell by his body language, but yet kept getting picked in front of him, what was that saying to Ayeti?
See, the other thing I would say, just to Terence Pat, criticise him professionally, not personally. Well, what has happened that may not be public is something that should be kept private. You're right, Terence, but let me tell you, his conduct elsewhere with others connected to the club has not been great, and that will probably remain private because that's the way these things should be dealt with, as should things that happen at training and behind the scenes at the club. So it's time Neil Lennon remembered that and acted professionally himself, rather than just come out swinging every time anybody gives him a platform, because it is tedious. But if he continues to do it, I think Celtic fans have a right to reply, and we'll certainly be responding on the ACSOM platform as well. But let's not allow Neil Lennon or any negativity creep in after a 6-0 victory again against St Mirren. We've got a European game during the week, followed by a game at Ibrox, and it looks as though there'll be no Celtic supporters at that game, unfortunately. Monday, 12:30, we'll be back. We always are on the ACSOM Bulletin. It's been a busy old section in the comments field. I think the majority of the people commenting are Celtic fans, so it's great to see. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter and elsewhere, LinkedIn, Twitch and various other platforms. If you haven't done so already, subscribe on YouTube. And also, thank you to Lawrence Conley and Laura Bradburn for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.